Encounter with entitled parents in the pediatric emergency room. My 3-year-old daughter was diagnosed with bacterial pneumonia and we ended up in the emergency room because she was struggling to breathe. Pneumonia is very serious. She was put on a nebulizer and O2, and given N4 for more meds while we waited for a room to open up in the PICU. The emergency room was pretty full. The rooms are small, and you share them. There is a curtain that divides them. There are no doors, just another curtain. Around 4 p.m. a family arrives with mom, dad, 5-year-old daughter. The mom briefly looks in on my side of the room and could see my toddler laying in the bed hooked to machines with N4. It's obvious that this isn't a stubbed toe. So I can't help but hear the parents explaining why their kid's in the ED. Stomach pain. Meanwhile the kid is asking for something to eat. She sounds quite perky. Parents insist she has a kidney infection. Whatever, I don't know her history, not interested. So my daughter was given a steroid through her nebulizer to help open her airways. Her O2, which they wanted 90 or above, kept dipping down into the low 80s, making an alarm sound. The nebulizer makes some noise, and the side effect is hyperactivity, so my extremely sick kid was medically wired as hell. Within 30 minutes of arriving, the entitled parents call for a nurse and ask for a private room because their daughter needs to rest somewhere quiet. Meanwhile their daughter was blasting Ryan's toy review from her tablet, and loudly demanding chocolate chip cookies and milk. The nurse explains that there is no private rooms in the emergency room. My daughter then starts having a coughing fit, which is scary as her O2 drops off and she chokes until she vomits. I had 2 nurses in trying to help by suctioning her and patting her back. I'm trying to help her, my daughter is turning blue. I hear the entitled mother ask the nurse how long are they going to be expected to listen to that. Afterwards my daughter was wiped out and was crying a little, and the entitled mom rang for her nurse again and asked again for someplace quiet so her little girl can rest. Her daughter was making a lot of noise playing with something. Then they started playing with the lights. The room has a switch to control the lights on each side, and then a master switch to cut all the lights. My daughter is afraid of the dark. The entitled dad cuts the lights for the room, making it quite dark with the curtain over the doorway drawn. I tell my husband to turn on the lights on our side, which he does. The entitled mom calls her nurse to complain that it's too bright for her little girl to sleep. It's 5 p.m. The nurse explained that they are welcome to shut the lights off on their side, but they have to leave our side alone. They complain a bit about how ill their daughter is. Meanwhile my daughter is drowning in her own lungs, which I'm sure they know as you can hear everything. Then nurse leaves and they shut the lights off for the entire room again. My husband immediately turns ours on and calls through the curtain that we need our lights on. Silence. Our nurse comes in to attend to my daughter's fall and they attempt to get her force us to have the lights off. Our nurse basically tells them to knock it off. Then they start pushing for more space. They attempt to push our chair away where my husband is sitting. They put their chair way over on our side of the room, pushing the curtain into our faces essentially. My husband pushes it back. They call and complain. Rinse and repeat. Finally a room in the PICU opens up and we are told that we would be admitted in an hour. Entitled parents complain that they asked for a private room first. The nurse explains that we are being admitted, not being given a private room in the ED. The EP demand they be admitted first because their daughter is so much sicker. The nurse says that there is no reason for their daughter to be admitted as she is just constipated and as soon as she poops they will be free to go. The parents start freaking out. So that's my story of how the parents of a little girl who needed to take a shit felt they were more important than a little girl with pneumonia.
Embarrassing experience buying a pregnancy test. I'm about to have major word vomit. I apologize. I previously bought a box of pregnancy tests on Amazon because I was too embarrassed to buy them in person, and both tests were duds. So last night a friend and I went to Walmart to buy a pregnancy test. I'm not sure if all Walmarts lock up contraceptives/pregnancy tests, but this one did. I notified an employee that I needed someone to come unlock the case, So they sent a young girl, maybe early 20s, to come open it. As she's walking towards us, she goes, "Someone's getting lucky tonight." I just nervously laughed it off, in shock that she really just said that. She opened the case and I grabbed the box of pregnancy tests, and her whole demeanor changed. She looked at me like I had just ran over her puppy. Like, full-on horror and disgust. Then she says, "Oh, you think you're pregnant?" Maybe I'm just being sensitive, but that was so inappropriate to me. I wish I told the employee how inappropriate comments like those were, but in the moment, I was horrified. After walking away, my friend even turned to me and said, "Did you see how she looked at you?" It makes me mad. What if it was a young teenager, or someone who had been assaulted, going to buy condoms, or Plan B, or heck, a pregnancy test? In no situation would it be okay to make comments on that. Has anyone had an experience like this when buying condoms, pregnancy tests, Plan B? How did you handle it? I don't want this girl to lose her job, but I feel like someone needs to tell her this is not acceptable.
Screwed out of my holiday pay because we don't have set schedules. 3 months later I used the exact same phrase to my boss when asked why I didn't come in when I wasn't on the schedule. The title probably doesn't make too much sense, but it will after reading, hopefully. I'm on mobile, so formatting. Alright, background. When I was hired for the job which I currently work, I was hired to work on Tuesday through Saturday from 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. This had been my schedule for months, never changing, as I was verbally told that this was my set schedule. I even clarified this because I had to arrange childcare. For example, one week I was accidentally left off the schedule entirely and was told to just work my normal schedule. Around Thanksgiving time, we closed down for a week. The company policy is that you have to work your last scheduled shift before the break and your first scheduled shift after in order to get your holiday pay. On the Monday following Thanksgiving, remember I'm normally off on Mondays, I got a call saying I was scheduled to work and that because I didn't come in I wouldn't get my holiday pay. This kind of pissed me off because I had been told I would work Tuesday to Saturday and thus had only arranged childcare those days, so I couldn't come in that day if I wanted to. The exact phrase I was told over the phone was, "It is your responsibility to check the schedule every week because we don't have set schedules." Fast forward to this week. While checking the schedule, I noticed that my schedule is the same as normal with the exception that I am off the schedule on Saturday. So, I decide to not look a gift horse in the mouth and just take the 3-day weekend and don't mention to my boss that she left me off. So Saturday, which I normally would work, I don't go in since I'm not scheduled. I got a call from work and didn't answer, no voicemail left. Then I receive a text from my boss saying that my schedule never changes and it will be a no-call/no-show on my attendance record for not coming into work. I reply that I am not on the schedule and so I'm not required to come in, as it is my responsibility to check the schedule every week because we don't have set schedules. I received no further reply and am looking forward to seeing how work goes on Tuesday.
Entitled Mother-in-law lived with us for 6 months rent-free. So I have a lot of stories about this woman, but today I'm going to focus on the 6 months she lived with us. Little backstory, my husband and I got pregnant very early on in our relationship. I told him he wasn't allowed to propose while I was pregnant because I wanted to make sure he was marrying me, not the baby. He ended up being the best thing that ever happened to me. We bought a house, had our son, then got engaged. My mother-in-law hasn't had a stable job since my husband was in middle school, lives off the government, has somehow assumed responsibility of several of her friends' children, plus her other grandchild. She has diabetes she doesn't manage, which resulted in her losing most of her toes on her right foot. 3 months before the wedding, 10-year-old niece, and 3-year-old nephew, no actual relation, but we'll say nephew for simplicity, got kicked out of the house they were staying at and showed up at our door. We live in a 3-bed, 1-bath house. Not very big. Still, we made it work until they found another place. I gave the mother-in-law the spare room and put all 3 kids in a room together. Of course, at the same time she moved in with us, the government assistance she had been receiving was cut off. Long story for another day. So her only assistance financially to us were her food stamps and watching our son. I picked up a second job and my husband picked up extra hours. During her time with us she treated my husband's car like it was a community car. Despite us telling her we don't want smoke in our house or cars, she was caught several times breaking those rules. My tip money would disappear from my purse. My nice camera disappeared. She would sell part of her food stamps, and instead of doing anything productive, it would go towards cigarettes or weird random knickknacks she tried to display in our house. I said hell no, they were awful. As I said, this was before our wedding. She kept offering to throw me a bridal shower, which I declined knowing she couldn't afford it and I hate her friends. All I asked was she buy her own dress. 2 weeks before the wedding, when no dress was bought, I used a gift card from my actual bridal shower and took her shopping. She hated everything, complained the shop was too expensive and ugly and wanted to go somewhere else. Again, I was using a gift card. The whole experience was awful. We finally settled on a floral dress she didn't hate. The day of the wedding she only had to get herself and the nephew ready. We left her my husband's car, best man drove him. She was late to the wedding and delayed the whole service. We wanted to be able to get a hold of her since she had our son during the day, so we got her an older iPhone on our plan. She hated it and let the nephew destroy it. After 6 months she finally left. We assumed responsibility of the niece. We still have contact with her, but it's much more limited and we are much stricter with favors for her. Anytime my husband asks if I still love him, I reminded him if I was ever going to leave, it would have been during those hard months. My husband is an amazing, hardworking man, and the best father I could ask for my son. Today I ducked up by orgasming uncontrollably at the gym, causing a 911 call. About 4 months ago, I started doing daily Kegel routines to improve and intensify my orgasms. They work. Today, doing sit-ups on a bench at the gym, I began to feel strange. As I pushed upward on each rep, my body felt tenser and tenser, like, frustrated and elated, and I was vividly aware of the inseam of my shorts between my legs. Right before the peak, I finally realized what was happening. Stifling a moan, I threw myself forward, trying to avoid lying arched and spread-eagled on my back. I ended up crashing to the floor, clutching myself. Once I could think again, I realized people were running toward me and yelling about seizures and heart attacks and 911. I curled into the fetal position. I was raised to be deeply ashamed of every aspect of my sexuality, and though I've recovered enough now to be adventurous in the bedroom, I'm still a ball of shame in public. Hearing sirens, my gym is 4 blocks from the fire station, I wished for death. Finally, when the paramedics were about to grab me, knowing I couldn't afford the monetary devastation of an ER visit, I sat up and yelled, "It was an orgasm, I'm fine. I'm never going to the gym again. But I am gonna see where these Kegels take me."
Hey, if you want to see more similar videos like this one on daily basis, definitely hit that subscribe button and turn on your notification to see our tomorrow's even better video.